On this episode, motion. Hey everybody, this is the Quarter Show, and today we're going to be talking about motion. So I just went over this, in fact, with our sales team this morning. We were talking about using motion and how you have to keep things in motion across your life, but in sales, in business, in general. And it's interesting. We had a big week last week, and what you find sometimes is when you have a big week, or you have a big month, or you have a big quarter, you get into this thing where you sort of rest on your laurels a little bit and you sit back and you think, it's pretty good or whatever. And then you have this dip, and there's this thing where you can sort of roller coaster and you have these sort of hills and valleys, and you want to stay away from the hills and valleys. But what happens is when you lean back, when you pull the foot off the gas a little bit, you pull back on motion, right? You pull back on motion a little bit and you bring the motion down. And when you do that, when you drop down in motion, what happens is in comes the considerations, the thoughts, the thinking too much about the deals. You kind of lose momentum, you lose morale, you lose motivation, you lose bright ideas, you lose innovative ways to tinker and solve deals and get to the customer and and make the deals happen. Lack of motion, and when you sort of stagnate, it leads to your deals magically being stuck. They get stuck. They don't move forward and different things like that. Next thing you know, people aren't calling you back. People aren't responding to your emails. Things aren't happening. You don't hear from people. Magically, all your deals are stuck. And in order to solve this problem, the thing you have to do is keep motion. Keep in motion. You have to keep motion going. Motion is where your bright ideas come from. Motion is where you start being innovative. You have an idea to send a PDF, an article.
Hold on. Are you telling them not to go have a weekend? Is that what this is? The no weekend show.
Here's the deal. Stay in motion all the time, including on your weekend. Yeah. Stay in motion all the time. For me, I run a lot. I'm running. If I'm not at work, I go for a run, or I'm going on adventures with the family, or I'm doing different things. I stay in motion. I don't hunker down on the weekend, let's say, and I don't just sit there and just like watch TV through the weekend, let's say, stagnate, and then expect to go crush it on Monday. That's not what I do personally. I believe, for me, I need to stay in motion all the time. And I have found, by the way, and I want to talk about running on another episode because it relates to sales, it relates to business. I want to talk about it. But a lot of ideas and things come when I'm in motion. And even when I have problems or things I'm trying to deal with, going for a run is the idea comes to me, the problem gets solved, or what have you. And again, I want to talk about it on another show. But motion, you have to stay in motion, whether it's the weekend, whether it's in the afternoon, or whether it's during the day. But motion drives other cycles, and your motion, by the way, gets them in motion. So let's say your prospects are not in motion, they're not calling you, they're not emailing, whatever. That's dictated by your motion. You don't wait for them to take motion so it comes to you. You kickstart motion, you drive things, you send a bright idea, you send an email, you make a phone call, you fire out some other article, you meet in person, you send this tweet, you do that, you go to LinkedIn, you do all these different things, you put on a webinar or whatever it is, you organize these different things. All of your motion dictates their motion, and it dictates the other things that come back to you, like your purpose, your why, your goals come in sight, and you have more goals. You get clarity on more goals and more things you want to do. Amazingly, when you go out of motion, you lose sight of your goals, you lose sight of your motivation, you lose sight of your purpose. And people say, I need motivation. Really? You need motivation? Get in motion.
And that's the thing. And a lot of this content he's talking about, I view it from like executive level. This is executive level data he's given, but from the trenches, from like the single salesperson doing his thing, right? It's essential. And that's why when I first was coming on board with Richter, and this is my first sales job, and I first started getting off the ground and first really started to make it happen, I worked I worked all day for Monday through Friday, normal work day, and then I took a little break for dinner and maybe a little R&R, and then I worked from 9 to 11 every single night, Monday through Friday, and then I took Saturday off and did some things like rock climbing and different stuff with friends and things, and then I worked all day Sunday. And I kept the motion going, and my numbers just started going up and up and up, because I roll into Monday. We roll into Monday, and it's like Monday, and it's like, okay, what were we doing last week? What was happening? And you spend half your day going into meetings to reestablish what already happened. It's a gigantic amount of wasted time. And then on top of that, like, just to add a little extra thing, if you're doing everything through email, from an executive standpoint, try not to. Don't do that. Get up, go see your people, inspire confidence, get them in motion, get them doing the things they need to do.
Email is not enough motion.
Email is not sort of this dwindling spiral towards death. It's really
it feels like motion, and people are you're sending it, people are receiving.
Yeah, like I can send a contract over, and it goes bam, and it's instantaneous. That's instantaneous communication across long distances. Internal email to your company is generally really bad, and there's a few reasons why. It limits how fast you're moving. It does not get across the appropriate and correct feeling and emotion. I know that each and every person who ever watches this video will say, oh yeah, to this. Whether on text, whether on email, there has been a gross misduplication as to how a person felt and what they actually meant. And there was a giant amount of back and forth that had to happen, or a complete okay, I don't want to talk to this person anymore. Only come to find out that if they had just included a little smiley face at the end, everybody would have been like, oh, they were just having fun or whatever. It's a huge time waster if you are not across long distances.
Yeah.
Go and see your people. Go and talk to your people and move through cycles of action and get them moving and get you moving.
Yeah, email is too low a motion tool. You can definitely use it, but if you're using it, make the phone call, leave the voicemail, send the document. We use EchoSign for contracts. Send the document that way. Figure out other ways to do motion, but don't sit there. If you find yourself relying on email, like I sent them an email, and you're relying on email for your sales or for whatever, interoffice, whatever, and you're not taking motion beyond that, you're burning time, you're wasting time, and magically you're always quote unquote busy.
And you're always tired.
And
you will be
exhausted
at the end of an email workday.
You're exhausted because you're just...
Your space is right here. You'll be like, oh God,
no. Motion will create energy for you. You'll have an abundance of energy. If you don't have abundance of energy, I would argue that you're potentially not in motion at the full level.
It's physics, man. It's straight maths.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's just particles in space. That's all.
Stay in motion. Get in motion. Your purpose, your goals, your vision, your motivation, all that stuff is after. It doesn't come to you before. It's after motion. You get in motion and you do those different things. If you're like trying to come up with it before, I'm going to do this so I can get in motion, it doesn't work that way. Get in motion and those things will come.
Oh shoot, that was the key point of the whole thing. I wanted to say, so as a salesperson, you go like this, well, my lineup isn't that big this week, and I sold a bunch of stuff, I closed a bunch of deals last week, and I don't know, I guess I got to reboot on my purpose and how I think, and maybe I can sort it out and da-da-da. What he just said. You get yourself in motion first, and then thought comes. People think that you create thought, like it's true, but I'll tell you what, 99.9% of thought is a result of motion.
Yeah.
An extremely small, actually much smaller part of thought is simply a result of instantaneous creation. Moments of pure genius and creation those are the only moments where thought happens first. The rest is created by motion. So you have to get in motion, and then you'll have these bright ideas and thoughts.
Look at anybody you admire. You take an Elon Musk, you take a Steve Jobs, you take a Thomas Edison, you take anybody you admire. Constant motion, constant ideas, constant inspiration, constant goals, constant motivation, things like that. Look at anybody like that.
Yeah.
Constantly in motion. Stay in motion, and good things will happen. Don't let yourself drop out of motion. Okay? Follow us on Twitter at The Quarter Show, right there. And hashtag The Quarter. Don't forget to ask us questions. You can mention us on Twitter, ask questions. You can add them in the comments and things like that. We're going to be sending out what works books for different questions. We'll pick a question, we'll fire out a what works book, and we'll start answering them on the show as well as we go here. Hope you enjoy the content, and feel free to send us feedback as well. Okay? Thanks for watching.